Take and TalkPics.com. I'm Rob Kruger. This is episode 80 with photographer Tony Sweet.
Treat success and failure evenly. Treat them the same. So there's no big, oh, I'm happy, oh, I'm really sad. No, these big leaps. If things are successful, keep an even keel. If things don't work, keep the same even keel. Just keep moving forward.
Today's featured guest is Tony Sweet. Tony, are you ready to share with Photo World today?
Sure, absolutely, Rob.
Excellent. Tony is a Nikon legend behind the lens. His photography is published worldwide and is represented by Getty Images. You may see his work used by Nikon, Alien Skin, Topaz, and Lensbaby, just to name a few. He has authored 5 books on the art of photography and currently teaches workshops throughout the U.S., Canada, and Iceland. Tony, welcome to Take and Talk Pics.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, I've just shared a little bit about you. Can you expand a little bit further? Tell us about you and your business.
Well, we have a company that Sue Milestone and I run. It's called Tony Sweet Photography, and we run what we call visual artistry location workshops, where we deal with more of personal interpretation rather than rendering the scene like as we see it. Because, as you know, software gives us the ability to really interpret the subjects and the scenes like we feel it. So there's much more latitude to do more when we photograph now. So it's geared more toward the artistic end of photography. And we do creativity seminars. It's 1 day, 9 to 5 seminars. Let me see what else. That's pretty much our ball game. I teach online. I teach. I do a lot of instruction, which I enjoy teaching very much also. And you mentioned the great Mike Mose. I spoke at Mike's first macro seminar and events like that. So we stay pretty busy.
Yeah, and you're always on the move. I mean, Photo World, I reached out to Tony and he's like, I'll be back in town for these days only, and then I'm on my way out again. So we're squeezing in an interview here, which is awesome. And it's good, you're keeping busy, and it's better than waiting around for something. So, keep it going, and Photo World, follow along. He's got places to be, but you can find him if he's coming near you. So awesome.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, when we're sharing our stories about the ups and downs of business or just running photography as we go, we kind of learn a lot along the way. And as we're moving forward, we have this inspiration of, maybe it's just the passion of photography, but I try to find a quote or a mantra to live by. Do you have something you can share with Photo World that's along those lines?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. One of my mantra, quote unquote, is things that I think about a lot. And I teach in our seminars just to isolate and simplify. That applies to photography. It applies to life. I just like things very simple and focus on what we're doing rather than getting scatterbrained. Like out in the field, you find one subject, you find a way to isolate it, then you find a way to simplify it. And I think that kind of simplicity carries through, I guess everything.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, when we're talking about business, the people who are successful always tell you niche down, niche down, niche down, perfect, and then expand. I mean, that's kind of the process for everything. So
that's the exact same thing that I'm saying here. Yeah.
And it's like your photography business can be the same thing. Find your genre, find your subjects, and go after that. The picture, I think, is more where you were describing, but that's the best way to do it is, find exactly what you want in the frame. Be very specific about it because we have this box to work with. May as well be very specific about working with that box. It's intentional that there's a frame there.
Yeah, there's no accidents in great photography. It's very consistent.
Right. Well, what sparked your interest in photography enough to pursue it as a career? Because I know I read on your site that you were a jazz musician and you did all sorts of other things, before landing on photography as the thing to follow.
Yeah, I had a very misspent childhood. I, began as nothing really. Picked up. I'm a veteran, a Vietnam era veteran. When I got out of the service, I got into music, which I've always wanted to do.
Yeah. And
then started working as a musician for years, and then for a long time, and then moved to Cincinnati. I taught at UC in the jazz program for several years, and then the business changed a bit, as things always change, and I didn't like where it was going, so I was trying to find another outlet to express myself. So I found a great mentor. I was taking pictures of jazz artists and people that I've worked with throughout the years, so I did have a camera. And I met a camera repairman who became my mentor, who was and is a great nature photographer. His name's Tony Gayhart. And Tony basically took a lot of time to mentor me for a couple years, like private and I learned just a whole lot through him. And then just that's what I realized. This is what I want to do next. And then I just hit the ground running at that point at about age 40. So it's never too late out there, sports fans.
Yeah, what an amazing journey and a path to go from one thing to the next to find your true passion. And just from me over here and from Photo World at large, thank you for your service and doing that for all of us here to be able to pursue our dreams. It's amazing. So, you land on photography, you're 40 years old, and
Yeah,
you got to learn how to do it. Like you said, you had a mentor. That's a huge, huge help. I myself had a few mentors just in my earlier days, aside from school, which I did do for photography, and
sure.
it's a huge bonus to have a mentor, somebody who can kind of show you the ropes. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was very lucky.
And it's hard to find. I get emails all the time. I'm sure you do too, of people who are like, "Hey, if I can ever learn from you, let me know." And you're like, "Sign up for the workshop, come and learn. That's fine." But I think they're usually looking for something a little more specific, and it's hard to do that for everybody. So I totally get that side of things too.
Well, the Zen Buddhists say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and that's kind of been my experience as a magician, believe it or not, as a musician and as a photographer. Just at that one crunch point where I was like lost, at that one crunch point, the right person showed up. It just
Yeah.
seemed to work out that way.
Nice. I love that. I don't study a whole lot. Apparently, I didn't know that saying, and I think that's awesome. I'm gonna have to put that on your show notes to make sure we got it for Photo World. That's a good mindset. But when we're learning, we're going through business. We got good times, we got bad times. Can you recall sometime maybe it was a failure moment or a learning moment, something that you tried out, it didn't really work out exactly, but you learned a lot from it?
Oh man, but that's like everything, Rob. It's kind of hard to pick one thing. Well,
Right.
it's actually impossible. It's just this is a long game here we're talking about. It
Hmm.
goes on for like your entire life. So you're constantly growing, constantly changing, making a mistake, just like then you alter your path, and then it's just a nonstop process. But the most important thing is just to remain open, because things might come along that may not be what you expect, but they're what you need, and you've got to keep an open mind to realize that. And I think that's the key to following the right path.
Oh yeah. I mean, a good nugget I'm pulling out of here, the long game. I mean, I went to school for photography, and I swear every other person, all my peers who were in classes with me, thought, "Hey, we're going to get out of this and we're going to be professional photographers and we're going to make it. It's going to be awesome." And from my little graduating class of the photography students, I can recall about 3 of us who are actually doing photography as our career. So it is a long game. You have to be ready for it. It's not just going to happen. The Joey L's of the world, who I love his work, it's super rare, but it's not like he didn't put in the time either. So you have to understand, you got to put in the time, put in the work, and keep moving forward.
Well, it's also important to realize, that it doesn't need to be a career to be enjoyable and to
Oh
be
yeah.
enriching.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can have a day job to take the pressure off of the money thing. You just go enjoy it. We teach workshops, and people just come. They don't even print their work. They just like the process of showing up in nature with people of like mind, and just like that's like their Zen moment. So there's no need to actually pursue it as a career to get enriched by it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, even somebody like me who runs a business, I still have photography as my hobby because I mostly do weddings, but I love to shoot in nature. But I'm not
Yeah,
pursuing it a monetary value. That's my escape. I can actually go and enjoy it in a different way.
absolutely. And it also enriches, I mean, all this stuff crosstalks, and your nature stuff where you see that, I'm sure, will like influence your other genre that you work in. So I mean, this stuff all like cross pollinates everything. So the more you do of everything, the better you get at your chosen area, I guess.
Right. And when we first kind of started this, and you were talking about how there's all these different things you can do after the fact of capturing an image. I mean, I just got a huge Topaz pack. I love their stuff. Oh my gosh, there's so many cool things. But like you can make a lot more from it. This whole pre-visualization, like Ansel Adams said, before you ever shoot the picture, you want to know what that print's going to look like. It's kind of when in the digital age with this stuff. I mean, I don't know if that's the most important practice you have for your workflow from start to finish on an image or a series, but can you pull out what might be?
Well, there's no real workflow. The key to me is just to know as much as you can about as many software packages as you can. So when you have something that you see in your imagination, you know where to go.
Right.
to bring that to fruition. You know, I mean, there's no workflow A, B, C, and D. There's none of that. I've got like three moves that I do in Lightroom. The rest is all like this needs darkening, this needs lightening, this needs some shading, brighter here, darker here, and then you start working with the image the way that you want it to be, which is
Hmm.
your personal vision, I guess. But you can't learn enough, and you're constantly feeding your imagination with new software. You got to put the time in to practice. You've got to know what you have. It does no good to buy a package and let it sit in a folder for a year. You got to get in there and dig it out and play around and get through the just get onto the learning curve. Just get onto it, and then the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, and you can never stop learning. I mean, Photo World, here you are listening to Take and Talk Pics, and we got a great interview with Tony Sweet, who does amazing workshops and teaches online and in private. You know, you have the path here to go learn a little bit more. It's another thing available. So get out there, keep learning, because education can't hurt you. Not too much.
It's everything.
So, Tony, we have a wide range of different photographers listening. I mean, some just want to do this for fun. Others are trying to start a career. Others have had a career for many years. Can you share with Photo World one thing you think would lead to growth and success in their photography, regardless of their current level?
Persistence. Persistence. I mean, just don't quit. Don't give up. Have faith in what you do. Don't don't believe anybody when they tell you something. If you like it, you like it. You know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, things that look really bad to start with wind up being really great, a great path. So just don't give up. If you believe in what you're doing or think it's got possibilities, just be persistent. You know, I mean, people give up too quick on a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, you get through a process of, making a picture and then trying to edit it, and you start showing people, or you're like, you know what, maybe this isn't working out, and you give up, and it's like, maybe all you had to do was one little tweak, and it would have been a wow kind of shot, like, you got to keep seeing things through, and then you learn as you go. I mean, it's that, like you said, it's all overlapping here between education and, persistence in making this work for you. So I love it. And I'm so in tune with this interview right now. And for a second, I'm like, I should be listening to this rather than conducting it. It's so awesome.
Now you just need about two or three people that you really trust their opinion.
Yeah.
And because I've got those. If they say do it, I do it. It's that simple. No questions, no why, because they know more than I. They've been around longer. They know more than I do. And if they say do it, I do it.
And trusting to their opinion to the point where if they tell you it's not working, you understand why, or they can explain why, and you really believe that.
You got that right. So I mean, going to a camera club critique session has its value, but if you want to really have somebody, you have to find people you can trust, who have your own best interest at heart, to give you feedback, and that's who you listen to.
Right. Yeah. When we're going through everything and we're learning as we go, sometimes we get these moments, these light bulb moments that kind of trigger something, and it's like, you know what, I just changed that one thing, or I tried that a little bit differently, and it's this aha moment. I don't think there's just one in a career. I think if that was the case, we'd have this amazing aha moment, we'd achieve it, and then we're done, like, what's the point? So there's many of them, big or small. Can you recall one for Photo World?
Well, when I first started doing this, like I say, I was photographing jazz artists, people that I work with, very famous people in traditional jazz. I photographed myself with them and photographed them playing, and then I met my mentor, who he just showed me one slide at the right time, a nature slide, and I said, man, I said, Tony, I can do this. I can do it. Yeah, no, I can do it. And from that point forward, I changed everything. I got all faster glass. I mean, slower glass, telephotos for nature, macro lenses, and from that point, like I did a 360 or just a 180, and changed from doing the black and white nightclub stuff to doing nature immediately, because I knew that I could do what he did.
Yeah.
And I never looked back.
That's awesome. In Photo World, if you ever have the chance, or if you had the chance to see transparencies or a slide, that's when you start seeing color for the first time. I mean, oh my goodness, there's nothing more rich, more beautiful than those transparencies, which I don't know if people are doing them anymore. It's crazy.
It's coming back. No, it's coming back. I was reading some things where some kids want to who've never seen a transparency or who never shot film. You have to realize that by now it's been almost a generation since digital came in.
Yeah.
So people that are like, generation being 15 years. So people that are like, kids are like, who are like 20, were like 5 when film went away, and they're rediscovering it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point. Like I've only been teaching for like I'm in my second year now, and I have students now who've only been photographed on digital, and it just makes me feel so old. It's ridiculous
Sure,
that it's
sure.
happening so fast. Everything's moving. But man, photo world, you want to learn? Go play with some film. Oof,
That's how you learn exposure. That's for sure.
yeah. So, Tony, can you share with Photo World a time where you kind of had this "I made it" moment? I mean, maybe it was when Getty Images said, yeah, let's pick you up and represent you, or I know you got a representation for your iPhone photography, which is cool. Some moment where you kind of felt like it's been validated, what you've been doing is working, and it's a little pride moment here.
Well, on the surface, my first article on Shutterbug was a seminal moment for me, and then my first book published. Held my book in my hand for the first time. That was very exciting. But as far as one moment, no, it's a series of moments,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it's just a long game, and again, not that I'm a Zen monk, but another Buddhist expression is to treat success and failure evenly, treat them the same. So there's no big, oh, I'm happy, oh, I'm really sad. No, these big leaps. If things are successful, keep an even keel. If things don't work, keep the same even keel. Just keep moving forward,
Right.
and don't get too freaked out or too depressed. Just keep things even,
Yeah.
and treat things very evenly. It is a long game.
Well, I mean, if you do it right, if you find the silver lining in your failures and stuff, it's all geared towards forward momentum. You're either learning or you're succeeding, and there's no backward step. The word failure is so intimidating, but there's no real backward step if you can view it correctly, and it is that perspective and that mindset that will change up how your path will go.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what failure means. I'm not sure what that means because it depends on what you do with it.
It's awesome. I feel like we got so much good advice, but can you recall the best advice you've ever received during your career so far?
I get it all the time from people. There were teachable moments, but that's just like momentary as far as like the big picture. I started this when I was old enough, Rob, that I kind of knew a little more than a 20-year-old kid. So when I entered into this thing at age 40, believe it or not, I had a level of maturity and expectations that were much more tempered than if you're young and like, man, I want to do this, and get all psyched up. Then things don't go well. Then you get depressed and you get excited. You drive yourself nuts doing that.
Yeah.
You get to a certain age where you just keep moving forward, take what you can take, and use what you can, and don't pick up what you can't use. I mean, you just keep moving forward. That's all, and don't get freaked out or too excited or too depressed. Keep things very even.
Yeah, I can't wait to grow up. It's going to be awesome. That'll be a
Yeah, I mean,
that'll be a good day, when I can finally get over my stupid childish habits. And then in my business, I mean, what you're doing with the education and all this travel that you're doing, it's there is a business there that you have running. Can you think of one bad business habit that you would like to break?
not anymore. Because if you have them long enough, you're out of business. It's real simple. It's basically, again, it's just that I like things very, very simple. I've got good people. Like I like people. I've got very good people skills. I get very close to our clients, and I've got their best interest at heart all the time, and they know that. So it's a good rapport to begin with. But no, I think having not forgetting what you're doing. This is a service industry. When you teach, it's a service industry. It is not about you. It's about the people that are paying you.
Oh yeah.
And if your focus is on that, I think you'll be fine. As far as selling photography, that's a whole other ball game. That's hard to do these days because everyone's good. Everyone sells pictures, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a different thing altogether. But I've gotten past the whatever bad habits I've had because again, I got into it when I was a bit older and kind of knew the lay of the land a bit more. So it
Right,
was
right.
much easier transition when you began at age 40.
Yeah, and I mean maybe you've kind of covered it because you didn't have to start at that younger age where it's like you just the world is your oyster, and you don't know any better, and you go into it so blindly and you mess everything up, but it's not a big deal at the time, because people are in their teens or in their early 20s, and it's okay to make that many mistakes. But if you actually kind of think back this idea of if you were, put yourself back to 20 years old or something, if you had to start your photography all over again, and you still have the same gear and the same knowledge that you have today, what would be the first thing that you would do at that age, if you woke up tomorrow to do it again?
Oh, I learned video software. I learned Final Cut. I'd master video. Absolutely, video is the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But you
mean,
still need, I mean, even with video, you need to have good compositional sense. I'll definitely, well, if you know what you know, you know what you know. That's pretty much it. So I would just really just dive headfirst into a video editing, and that's where the future is in this stuff. With 4K video, and it's really getting great.
oh yeah,
But you do need the core skills of having a good compositional sense and having a sense of a good aesthetic sense. Because a lot of times, the rules quote unquote, because there are no rules really. Um, that you just have a good sense of what feels right to look at. If it just feels right to you after a certain point, it's good. But that's after years of learning how to do it right.
right.
But once you have the skills of composition and sense of balance and visual weight and those things, you apply that to video. And I see a lot of similarities. And if I watch like any movie on TV or any movie or like anything at all, you notice that they play something in the third part of the frame, way up near the top. There's no dead center horizon line most of the time. Things enter and exit the frame, just like a straight photograph.
Right.
It's all the same, except video is the future in this business.
I mean, it's a motion picture, it's definitely still a picture. And
That's right.
when the DSLR world get this wave of video technology to introduce to videographers and people who are making, movies and, whatever they're doing with it, it was kind of this cool trend to get on the DSLR thing and have this more unique perspective with the apertures and this better control with your settings. Not that the
Sure.
video quality was at par at that time when it first came out, but I remember when I was doing weddings, every new videographer was, switching over to DSLRs, and they didn't know how to use them because they didn't learn a DSLR for photography. They're
Yeah.
playing with it for video, and there's
That's
a
right.
definite difference. So now that it has video, I think photographers have an advantage to learn video in a different way than people who started with video learning photography.
That's exactly right. If you come in from photography, there's a leg up already in the video game.
Right. I mean, as far as visually, not maybe not the editing, but visually.
Well, that's a different occupation. That's
Right.
right.
So, yeah, I mean, and with your iPhone photography, having representation, getting, published and stuff, we get different apps all the time. Instagram's huge and there's all sorts of stuff out there. But do you have an app or an internet resource that you could share with Photo World you think they could benefit from knowing about?
Well, the app that all of us use, and I know a lot of iPhone photographers, like serious artists, and I think Snapseed, which is free and it's from Google, is just an incredible app to start with. And then there's all kind of artistic apps you could play around with. The most important thing is you get apps that are full resolution because many of them are made for just emailing
Yeah.
and they have like 500K, which is like fine for that. But if you want to print, which is the goal, that's how I look at things, is what they look like as a print. And you can't print files that small. So what I look for in an app, first off, is whether it's full res or not. And I'll go no lower than 5 megabyte.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Snapseed is a good app. I've been playing with it lately on my iPad, so I haven't been doing a whole lot with it, but I've been doing a little bit, and it's come up on the show a few times. It's definitely gaining traction, and maybe it's just taking Talk Pics, getting all this word out there. I don't know.
Could be, it could be, but it's probably the go-to app. I can't think of like anyone that I know, and there's some serious people in iPhone land that don't use that in their workflow somewhere.
Use the tools; they're out there. Here's a new
Yeah.
one to learn about Photo World and get started on. If you haven't gotten to it yet, I'll have a direct link to it on the show notes page over at takingtalkpics.com. Just search Tony in the search bar. His show notes for this interview will come up, and we'll have all those links and his links so you can find him and what he's doing. But,
Sure. Thank you.
So, Tony, when you got started, you've been saying it a couple times, you kind of like what you like, and that's okay to pursue it that way. But do you have a couple photographers that you might have been inspired by at some point in your career?
Well, all of my students, for one, and I'm not just saying that because I'm to say it. I mean, everyone has a voice, whether they know it or not, and everyone does things a certain way. So when I see when we critique work on on like our workshops, it's like it's constantly, look at that, that's great. It's one thing after another, which just brings home the fact that everyone has a particular way of seeing things.
Mm-hmm.
And not to be dislodged from that because someone doesn't like what you're doing. It's just one person's opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And Tony, you're not just saying it to say it or flatter your students or the fact that you teach. There's something about education. Like if you're really in it, and that's what started this podcast is I really fell for education. I love doing this and kind of bringing it to people and getting them information. And there's something about it that when you see your students work, maybe the quality isn't great. Maybe the edit wasn't perfect, but there's something about it that kind of gets you re-inspired every time you see this other work that it's like, man, they saw that in a way I probably wouldn't have seen if I got there. It's really
That's
kind of
exactly
cool.
that's exactly right. And it really doesn't matter, like on the workshops team, they're just there for like 5 days.
Yeah.
What you want to give them, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing, is give them news they can use for the next 30 years,
Right.
not just for that week. That week doesn't mean anything. If they come up with nothing worth looking at, that isn't the point of the week. The point of the week is to leave with the knowledge that you can use for the next 30 years to make your work be what you want it to be. That's the point of these things. That if they come up with something great in the meantime, that's icing on the cake.
It's that whole give a man a fish, teach a man to fish kind of thing. So
that's exactly what it is.
Something you can take with you. And if we had to only limit it, what we can take with us, of course, you need a camera. So let's not talk about camera bodies, but one piece of gear that you could not live without.
Tripod.
Oh yeah.
Period.
What tripod do you use?
I used Gitsos for a while. I used Bogans for a while, Manfrottos, and then I've got some Gitsos. Right now, I'm really enjoying the new line of the Enduro tripod line. I just got one of those at last conference I was at, and they're when they first came out, they weren't very good. But like most things, if you stay in business long enough, you got to get good or you're out of business.
Right.
And these guys got great. They're tantamount to anything out there. And what's more important to me is that they're really good people, and I enjoy working with good people, not just good products.
Yeah, yeah. I like the Enduro. That's what I have.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's pretty solid. I mean, that thing's sturdy and it's not overly heavy, so it's nice.
They did a good job, man. They really did.
Mm-hmm. So you've authored 5 books. You're doing all these workshops and stuff. But can you tell us about a recent or an upcoming project that you're working on? You're excited about. You want to share some information about you and what you're doing, where Photo World can follow along.
Man, well, I mean, it's been said that if someone likes what they do, you never work for a living. I like what I do, so this isn't really a job. I mean, everything I do, I'm excited about. I like everything. I mean, every day is like I can't wait to get up. I go shoot. I like edit. I learn software. I do some teaching. I like every second of what I do. So I've got a book project constantly in the works with my company Stackpole. I've got one in the works right now on I'm not quite sure yet, but it's swirling around. And a couple of video projects. We have one with a company called Craftsy, Craftsy, that'll be filmed in Denver, coming up. God, that's soon, November. Jesus, we just finished a DVD from my main videographer, Master Photo Workshops. We just finished one from Cape Cod. And we just filmed a day-long seminar that'll be available in the iTunes store pretty soon.
Nice.
And working on our creativity seminars, 2 of which are coming up again. We have one in Los Osos and then one in San Francisco. And when is that? I think it's November. I'm not sure. I think later in the year. And so I feel quite fortunate that I like everything that I do. And I put the time in, and there's no guarantees, but so far it's working out pretty well.
Yeah. Recent project, more like 100. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. Keep it going, man. We're cheering for you. This is great.
It's just ongoing, man.
Well, we're about to wrap it up here. And before we go, Tony, could you share with Photo World one parting piece of guidance and then the best way that we can get in touch with you, whether it be your website or some sort of social media, and then we'll say goodbye.
Well, like we said before, just be persistent. I mean, that's the main thing. Nothing succeeds like persistence. And I see a lot of people resting on their laurels in this business. Like in almost all businesses, they get to a certain point, and then when they think they made it, is when they start to get downward spiral. Because there is no make it. It's just an ongoing process, and don't rest on your laurels. Don't think that you finally made it, because it's just an ongoing process. Just keep moving forward. And just be humble. I mean, there's a lot of great photographers, man. I mean, a lot. And if you think that for a second you're top of the heap, I mean, like you're finished.
Right.
There is no top of the heap. Just enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm. And then where can we find you and follow along with what you're doing?
Everything's on my website, tonysweet.com. My Twitter link is there, Instagram link is there, Facebook link is there. But the main thing is tonysweet.com. I've got a blog also, and I would appreciate comments on that. It gets kind of lonely out in cyberspace, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll have your links on the show notes page over at Taking Talk Pics. If for whatever reason, Photo World, you can't get there directly, you'll know to find it on takingtalkpics.com. Search Tony in the search bar. It'll be right there for you. But Tony, I cannot thank you enough for your time today and sharing such a great value. Photo World thanks you and happy shooting.
It's a pleasure. My pleasure, Rob. Thank you very much.